No, did till I think everybody did till pre-COVID, right? And once COVID hit, but I agree with Bob Huggins. Like we're not bankers. We're we're more like gym teachers. So we should probably dress more like gym teachers than we do bankers. Well, good to see everyone. We are entering the final stage, if you could say that, with finishing up the portal. One, I think a lot of times you get focused on the outside people and who is not involved in your program, and you don't cherish the guys that are in it. So, through this whole process, to lose two guys is a pretty high retention rate. We're pretty excited about the guys that we have returning and totally understand why we lost the two guys in Drake Kendall and Brian Amunique, just phenomenal young men, but really excited about who we have returning. And that starts with TJ Williams, the local guy, and Henry Thingvall being the local guy. And those guys needed to be on board, and both of them were. You may have been able to ascertain that even after the Tulsa press conference where TJ was all in. And then Dylan Batee and Will Berg and Noah Hill, to be honest with you, I think that's probably, and if you look, pretty much anywhere you look, Wichita State is predicted to win the league. But I would tell you, and I know it's early, but I would tell you that a lot of that has to do with the fact that Will Berg, Dylan Batee, TJ Williams are a part of this. And then Mike Gray to be able to return and have some perimeter shooting. What we felt we needed to add, and it's kind of a component because of our front line, is we needed to add creation, and felt like we have two really good creators. Jordan Fryson is one of the high, top 100 assist guys in the country who shot 42% from three, so he can create as well as make open shots. And then Jahari Long has the ability to make open shots, but he's a great creator. If you look at their numbers analytically, they're amongst the elite in the country at being able to run pick and roll. And so we needed to be able to match guys with our front line, and we've been able to add those two. Needed to add shooting component, and we had Mike Gray, but really feel like Bryce Hurd adds a component there, shot 41% down the stretch, and just feel like he has a lot of untapped potential and unlocked ability that we believe that the guys that we can put around him, he'll be able to showcase that. And then Sir Malonga is the fourth guy that we were able to add, has already been in the league at East Carolina, and I battled riddled with injuries, and but he's at New Mexico State this past year, but we really feel that he's healthy and is going to be able to contribute to our front line. But feel great about our front line, feel good about our backcourt. Our backcourt will have some catching up to do simply because there's some newness there. But to be honest, I just walk out of this portal really, really happy with where we landed.
You have a good returning core, like you mentioned, but a veteran group, and then you go and you add some guys with plenty of experience at the high levels, guys like Jordan Fryson, who played a lot of basketball at a really high level. How do you feel like that can take your team to the next level with just the experience this group have had?
I think anytime, this is the only sport, college basketball is college athletics is where there is unlimited free agency and no payroll, and there is no salary cap, and there is players can leave anytime. So I think a lot of people have to start over. So I think anytime you can get uh, down the road, in essence, man, we're trying to get to home plate, but instead of starting it with an at bat, we already got a group that's on second base. Like it just makes, we're in extra innings to where we can get guys who are able to turn the corner a little bit quicker in order to get to home. And so I just feel, again, from a front line, there's a lot of learning that takes place with a front line in order to be able to do that. So to have those guys, Dylan Battie, T.J. Williams, Wilberg, and I would tell you that all three of those guys, and I would add Noah, even though Noah didn't get much in the way of playing time, they're all trending upwards. Like they still have a lot that's untapped out of them. So I think an experience on guys that are still trending upwards. They were all playing their best basketball at the end of the year. And I think that any time that you can have that level of experience, the reason is they can teach others. And so they can teach the guards because now they have a concept about what the coaches are actually demanding from them.
Back at the beginning of all the process of retaining all the guys that you did retain, what was the process like for them? It sounds like they wanted to come back. Was there much re-recruiting to get them back? What was that whole process like?
Well, let me say that the 2 week pause in the portal window, I think coaches have done a really good job allowing that to happen. I've talked to a lot of coaches, talked to a lot of recruits, and I've talked to a lot of agents of these recruits. And I just think that was a phenomenal decision. So what used to happen is, man, as soon as the season was over, right after Selection Sunday, like guys were not given time to really process. So you would have people who would make emotional decisions and they wouldn't really think this stuff through. I think that in essence what became a 3 week calming down period and like, man, let me remove my emotions from this and let me look at this holistically in order to ascertain if this is a match. I think that was phenomenal. And so what we did as soon as the year was over, our season ended on Tuesday, and then we were able to talk to guys on Wednesday and just asked them, said, do you want to be here? Like before we can ever tackle what is my development going to look like? What are my opportunities next year? What are the financial components that may be involved in a decision like this? Do you want to be here? Because none of that other stuff matters if you don't want to be here. And some of them answered it immediately, and others, to be honest with you, I told, listen, whatever it is you're feeling right now, you may be upset about Tuesday's game and how you played, and you may point some fingers somewhere, a lot of times directed towards the staff, or you may feel great, but I need you to take the weekend. And by Monday, all of them had pretty much come in. Brian was the only one that was on the fence. Drake Kendall had already made a decision to do something else. Brian was the only one that was wavering. But I mean, the guys that said they were coming back, and the guys that weren't, and that was only one at that particular time. He had already made us aware of it. So the conversations were really good. Then you begin to tackle the other pieces. Hey, what does development look like? What does opportunity look like? You know, a lot of players want decisions on what November the 2nd is going to look like on March the 2nd. And I tell them, like, I don't know that answer. And it would be disingenuous of me to try to give you one right now. I don't know what this looks like because I don't know what the roster looks like. And then all of those guys were all involved in the recruiting process. I think Will Berg was on every single visit. If he could have gone to every meal that we took the families, he would have. The college players aren't going to pass up free meals anyway. But I mean, there's a time component of TJ, Dylan, all of our guys, Mike, Will. I mean, they were really, really invested in the recruiting process, and I thought that really aided. But the conversations were great, and again, Brian's decision, that was a lot of heart to heart and just what does this look like. And I think Brian, being a California kid, wanted to get back closer to home, and so I just really appreciate the transparency from our staff that I thought we had with our players and our players had with us.
Jordan Fryson specifically is, like I mentioned, a guy that's played a lot, but he was an MIAA Player of the Year at Pitt State and did great things at the Division II level. Then he comes up to Division I at Chattanooga last year. How have you seen kind of his arc of development and how he can fit in here at Wichita State?
Yeah, again, one of the primary things that we went into the portal with, knowing the front line that we had coming back, was we needed to find creation and we needed to find creators. And, KG's a phenomenal scorer. and Karam Boyd, we were trying to turn him into a perimeter player and have him make decisions through that. But that was a learning process for him through the course of the summer, and he developed during that time. We wanted to get more ready made, and so Jordan Frison was ready made. You know, he's a top 100 creator in the country. They needed to be able to shoot, so the 42% being able to shoot, but his ability is passing. KG's ability we knew was scoring, but we really felt like with TJ, with DB, with Will, with Noah that we have some of those guys that there's more utilization ability from those than what we've showcased. So we needed a Jordan Frison in our lineup in order to do this. We needed a Jahari Long in our lineup in order to do this. And we're a pretty pick and roll heavy team, and we needed guys who were elite in that area. And so Jordan Frison and Jahari Long, if you were to ask me like, hey, go pick any guys out in the country given what you had, those were 1A and 1B on our list. We didn't care which of the two committed first, but to have both of those guys, I'm just a big believer in that you have to have multiple playmakers on the court. Coaches aren't stupid. If you only have one playmaker on the court, they're going to go trap so-and-so, and they're going to say throw to these other four non-playmakers. So the fact that they can make perimeter shots, but Jordan Frison is an elite level passer, and that's the skill that stands out the most.
Talking about 1A, 1B there, guys that you wanted to go get and able to go out and get them. You know, do you feel like resource-wise that you felt like you could go after whoever you wanted to go after in this portal, you know, with what you had coming back? Did you feel like you could go be aggressive knowing everybody that you had coming back as well?
That's contextual, you know, and so I mean we're by no means at a rev share number. You know, they allow you to spend 20 million from legally allow you to spend 20 million until you begin the laundering route. But I mean we're not there. We're competitive inside of our league. We're by no means the most, but fortunately we're not the least either. And you know this is. You know, I would hear the phrase often from people that, you know, teams win games, but administrations win championships. And I always thought it was such a cop out. Like you're trying to deflect the attention and your burden of responsibility in order to impact winning. But the truth is, in this day and age, that is the case. And it does not happen. We are not able to get players of that caliber if President Muma is not on board, if Kevin Saul isn't doing a lot of this heavy lifting. But to be honest with you, it makes sense to me how involved administrations have to be in this era of college basketball. These are community events. If a community wants their team to be good, they can contribute to the finances. Wichita, there's a special relationship between the Shockers and the city of Wichita, and there's no denying that. And I felt it, and our players have experienced it. But are we positioned inside of this league? Yes, and it's because of our administration and their willingness to help. And can we go get anybody? No, we just can't go get anybody. And that's assuming that players are making decisions solely based on finances. They don't. Trust me, we have tremendous value. Like if I was to make you aware of the dollar numbers that other players turn down, whether it be to stay here or to be here, in my mind, it's pretty significant. And so it's we're well positioned, but we're well positioned because of our community and the special relationship that the city of Wichita has with the Shockers, and we're well positioned because of our administration.
In the same breath as that, going and getting the guy that you got, you know, on the list that you see of other offers or other interests and stuff that comes out, you know, there's a lot of power forwards that these guys could have gone to, you know. What does that say about the state of the program to win recruiting battles like that?
I mean, you could go to whatever school you think is best. I go to school XYZ because I think they're greatest, but if you're not being utilized right or you're not playing, you're not happy. So I think players have bigger visions than mine. And the goal is to one day, how do I capitalize on my God-given ability to be a pro? People go to college to prepare for their future. Our players want to be professional basketball players. And so you have to be in a position of that. I could go to whatever school you think is greatest, but it doesn't equate to much. I mean, Fred Van Fleet is a testament to that. And again, there is no magic school in the same way there are no magic plays and special defensive schemes. That players have to be comfortable, but more importantly, they have to be comfortable and their families have to be comfortable with their trajectory. And I think if you look, and I don't care who you name on our roster, their trajectory is north. And it hadn't plateaued and it's not south. And I think as long as there's a development piece, there's always a bigger vision. I mean, I took my first job in college basketball at Rice University, and I made $157 a month, and I was as happy as a clam. But it was never about, let me go get such and such dollars. There was always a process and a plan in place. And I think you have players and families that we've aligned ourselves with who are in our locker rooms who think the same way.
Does it feel like you guys have a lot of lineup versatility with Jahari being a big guard? You can play, three guards, or you can play TJ and Dylan at the same time. Does it feel like this roster has a lot of versatility?
Yes, but I mean, it's going to have to be developed. Like, I mean, you're not going to see a situation to where, hey, Dylan come in for TJ, hey, TJ go in for Dylan. Like, there has to be an expansion of their games, and we have to find a way in order to get TJ and Dylan on the court together. It just, in my mind, wouldn't make much sense to have two players of that caliber and all they're doing is substituting for each other, which was how they were utilized a year ago. So there is lineup versatility, but there's got to be development. What we didn't want to do from a Jordan Fryson and Jahari Long, since you mentioned them, is we didn't want two guys at 6 foot, and so Jahari being 6'5" and then Jordan being 6'1", and fortunately, Coach Cousinard, PJ just knew Jahari and just, that was somebody we were really familiar with from a personal standpoint. So we know what he brought into our locker room just as an individual. But there is lineup versatility, but this isn't add water, go out there, play a game tomorrow, and watch this work. Like, there's going to be a lot of work that's involved in this, and TJ has to expand his game. Dylan has to expand his game, especially knowing the level of creation that you're putting on the floor in Jahari and Jordan.
Is it just as simple as like, hey, shoot 500 threes a day, or what
You
can
know,
you expand on what you want them to expand on?
Yeah, again, you're not going to go from a 12% three-point shooter to a 40% three-point shooter. And so I don't know that it's necessarily do that. Like, hey, let's turn you into a three-point field goal maker. And again, I mean, TJ had 12 attempts on the year. DB had 18 attempts on the year. So I mean, Crom Boyd, between the two of them, made more than they shot. So all of that to say, we're not looking to do that. TJ's expansion of his game sometimes is as simple as being functional in both directions and not being a one-hand dominant. You have Dylan, who was very right-hand dominant. Now, can we see some of this is their level of creation? Like, that's where there's got to be picked a better pickup, and can I facilitate their finishing ability? And so it's not go shoot threes. It is expand your game in other areas. What happens when the court is tight and there's a plug? Like, can you create a runway and go attack that and maybe draw attention to create, or enhance our finishing ability so that there's better options there?
In looking at the landscape of the league, obviously every year is kind of a wild card right now because teams' rosters are changing so
Yeah.
much. But how do you feel like looking at what you've been able to retain and build here kind of compares to what you see in terms of the influx and the loss of players elsewhere, and how that positions your team going forward?
It's a good question, but I can't answer it because I really don't spend any time on anybody else's roster. Am I aware? A little, but if you ask me right now, name two players on each team, trust me, I probably couldn't name you one player on several teams. I don't know enough, and it's really not any time that I spend thinking about. Am I aware of Evan and where he ranks portal classes and how we compare and line up just where we rank from a roster standpoint. Yeah, I've seen Bart Torvik. I've seen Evans. I've seen it. Trust me, we pay for quite a bit of analytic information, so I have an idea. But in regards to individuals, I don't know enough about other people's rosters, and I also don't put a lot of stock into those level of analytics. At the end of the day, we have to play. I'm not trying to, throw shade at anybody, but I think Clemson football was projected to win the ACC last year, and they finished one game above 500 with 10 NFL draft picks. Like this stuff, the predictions don't mean much. Your level of talent, to some degree, you can have individuals hurt. I just really don't know how much you can read into it this time of year. So, a long-winded answer to your question is I don't even know what anybody else is doing.
I kind of expected that answer to a degree, but kind of along that, what's the timeline for getting to get a better feel on your team and then kind of turning the page to get prepared for this coming season?
November 2nd. That's when I'll have an idea. The good news is we get to play 3 exhibition games this year. They've changed the rules. They've also increased from 31 games to 32 in college basketball. So that'll help as well. You get another game in there. But I think the 3 exhibitions are great. In previous years you just had 2, and now we can open it up to Division Ones. So I think 3 exhibitions against 3 other really good teams that you can kind of match will get a pretty good idea. You don't read too much into that. I will tell you, last year after we played Santa Clara, we ended up losing, but one possession games in the 3 segments that we had. Lost by 2, lost by 1, lost by 2, and I walked out of there and disappointed that we lost. But I said Santa Clara is pretty good, and you know what? So to watch that kind of unfold throughout the course of the year, like man, they are and so I do think you get an idea in those exhibitions, but then you do not know until opening night and then just how it moves forward. And, we've been able to continue to get better through the course of the year during my time here. And I don't think that'll be any different. You just have to have a lot of things go your way, and meaning injuries and being able to uh, have a group come together pretty quickly. Veterans help that, as you mentioned earlier.
Jared, summer, what will that look like?
I don't know. We still have one piece to get, and that all plays a part. There's some injuries that we're kind of getting over, so I just don't know right now. But what we'll do is we won't change from a format perspective on how we did it. We'll practice, and the NCAA has changed the rule, the 8 hours. We get to divvy them up however we choose. It used to be 4 hours on the court, 4 hours in the weight room. You can do 8 hours on the court and 0 in the weight room now. We're not going to change much simply because I think that the physical component is a big part of winning basketball games. I thought our level of physicality was near the top last year. And so we're not going to get away from the weight room and what we reference as Finish Friday. So that'll still be, but right now, if you're asking me, and I haven't collaborated with the staff, but right now, if you're asking me, we'll still Tuesday, Thursdays practice for 2 hours, team practices. And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, they play open gym but they lift every single day. And then Friday is I know there are coaches out there who call it Fun Friday. It is anything but for us. And Finish Friday to finish the week is a pretty tough ordeal. But right now the format if you're asking me today, will be the same as we did last year.
What was intriguing about Bryce in the portal, and then second part, just if you could tell us a little bit about Tyreethan Mays, just what he showed in practice last year, what makes him intriguing too.
Yeah, Bryce has this will be his seventh school in 7 years. He played in Chicago, and then he went to Mount Verde, came back to Chicago and won a state championship, and then graduated early. He wasn't supposed to be at NC State, but NC State was supposed to be his senior year of high school. They talked about redshirting, but mutually agreed to play him. He was limited, and then went to Dayton, and I thought that really flourished and kind of came on, and you could begin to see him assert himself late. And so you're dealing with a young man that Bryce Hurd last year at Dayton was supposed to be his freshman year from a biological clock perspective. So I think that he has untapped potential, more athletic than what you think, and can really make shots, a tremendous scorer. But I think that there's some growth, and he'll be the first one to tell you this, in what he can offer defensively. And so just really pleased about where he's at and what he's been able to showcase in order to be a good player. Ty is a worker, and really excited about Ty. I'm excited about seeing him in the summer. Ty was injured for most of last summer, and for the beginning of this year, he was on the Canadian national team last year, and they had to send him home because of back issues, and then he struggled through that. And one of the primary reasons that he redshirted, he just wasn't physically ready. Feel like he's great. Ashton's done a phenomenal job with him, but he, as all players do, they need to be able to make one out of every three threes. We just know that's going to produce more than a point per possession. But excited about Ty, excited about Bryce, and those dudes will have a chance to compete against each other as well as with each other. So they'll sharpen each other through this whole process.
College basketball changes every single year, basically.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I know that roster context matters, but as this portal process, what does this stack up to years past? Is it still changing for you as well?
Yeah, it really is. Like, I mean, to be honest, just what this job was 4 years ago is not what this job is today, and it's crazy. I think fans experience this. We don't know the players. We hate the whole idea of money being a big part of the equation in a lot of people's minds on how we make decisions. There's a little bit more streamlined to it than there was. I mean, you used to recruit a guy 2-3 years, and you'd recruit 10 of those guys, and you wouldn't get them, and it was a 2 and 3 year commitment, and so it was a heartbreak because of the investment of time that was it. Recruiting's a lot more streamlined. It is, as has been referenced, it's speed dating, and I mean, we get kids here for 36 hours and they say, hey, I'm all in. I think where the good work is done is on the vetting on the front end by the recruit and by us. That there's a lot that comes into play here before you ever decide to invite somebody to your campus, and I think for them, they make spend quite a bit of time deciding, is this a situation that I could ever see myself in. But again, this is the only sport in the world where you have unlimited free agency and no salary cap, and I don't know about the sustainability. We thought prices would plateau for players, and I mean, by Wednesday when we jumped into it, we had a feel, but we thought there were anomalies out there during the course of the year as we would get reached out to by agents. And then when you had an idea about where this thing was headed, it was just like, holy cow. Like, we thought we were going to be able to get this many players with the amount of resources that we had, and we realized that just was not the case. I have zero regrets, because our primary goal was to retain, and we needed to create an environment to where players wanted to be here, and so I'm happy about that. But what's happening in college basketball, to be honest with you, it's a little mind-blowing, And I've got a number of friends who are getting out of this profession simply because they said this is not what I've signed up for. I think we've seen that in past years with coaches like Tony Bennett at Virginia or Nick Saban at Alabama. It's just different, but there's an adaptability that you have to have, and even what you think you know, like you do not know because I've been doing this for north of 30 years now, and I will tell you that not only is the generation, and I'm not going on a tangent here about Gen Z, not only is the generation different, but the climate in which you try to get to the generation is, man, it's different.
First time you and I actually spoke, you were talking to us from a doctor's office, so it's nice to see you in a different setting. But health-wise,
Was I in the ICU when I talked to you guys? That was you, TJ. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jackson's first time ever talking to you.
Oh, okay, okay.
That was a heck of an introduction, but
I hid that well, right? Yeah, y'all had
no
zero
idea.
clue.
Sit in
Yeah.
the waiting room.
but health-wise, where are you at?
Feel
How are you
great.
feeling?
Yeah, I feel great. I actually ran 5 miles yesterday. So my cardiologist said, he says, like, you have to go to zero cardiac rehab. You don't need to do anything. Everything, I just got cholesterol numbers. He said, you have the cholesterol of a preteen Swedish boy. You are perfect. This is unbelievable how much, and I'm kind of amazed at how medicine, but cholesterol was the primary component, but feel great. I said, what should I be doing? Like, tell me what's a goal here. Like in 6 months, should I be able to run a 5K? And he said, 6 months. He said, you need to be able to run for an hour straight in 3 months. I was like, I've never been able to do that my entire life. You think in 3 months I'm going to be able to run for an hour straight? All that to say, I did 5 yesterday, right around, what was I? Right around the 41-minute mark. So I'm not breaking any records here, being able, but you know, I can do 8-minute miles at a comfortable pace. So I feel good. I think it's the new tennis shoes I bought. I felt like those new tennis shoes. No, I didn't, but you won't hear me say that.
And does it feel like Noah Hill, is that a opportunity for him to push for more playing time, and just like how you think that three-headed center rotation might shake out? Is there an opportunity for him?
I'm a big believer in Noah Hill. I love Noah Hill. I think Noah Hill's ceiling is really high. We did not want to compromise. We finished, top fourth in the country in retrieving offensive rebounds per game, and we did not want to compromise there. And I can tell you simply by playing Noah Hill, he's kind of a one-man wrecking crew and can kind of maintain our numbers from an offensive rebound standpoint by himself. There's a skill component that has to really improve. He understands that. I believe he was 2 for 12 on the season from the free throw line. So he understands the skill component, but he has the intangibles. And I'm a big believer in Noah Hill. And Noah's here because, well, we believe in him.
Anything else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
3 more months.